Hey, what's going on, guys? Today's video, before I get into it, is sponsored by nobody. As some of you may already know, I don't actually get paid to do these music reviews week in and week out. I genuinely just love talking about music, especially new music that's being released. So if you've clicked on this video, or if you've ever taken the time to watch any previous music review, or if you've even taken the time to listen to the music that I make, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I appreciate the support. I'm currently working on an album that I plan to release in 2023, so I will make sure to post more updates about that as time goes on. But anyhow, today's video, of course, I'll specifically be discussing and dissecting the latest release from Celldweller, this being his fifth studio album entitled Satellites. Celldweller, the guy behind the music act named Clayton, is a multi-instrumentalist, I think a bit niche in terms of musical style, but right up my alley. As I mentioned, multi-instrumentalist, a vocalist, he's a songwriter and music producer based in Detroit, Michigan. He is a unique artist that I've been a fan of for a very long time, for years. His musical style tends to feature a blend of metal, industrial, rock, electronica, you name it, all of that, all things aggressive. Though I wouldn't say that there's a single genre that can be used to describe his sound. He just draws from so many different elements of various genres. His eclectic style and innovative approach to musical production is what immediately caught my attention when I first stumbled upon his music. It was in the mid 2000s, back when I was a child, during my time playing Need for Speed Most Wanted. This was the original version of the game, released back in 2004. Celldweller had two sounds on the game's banging soundtrack. It's a great soundtrack, go listen to it. And after some digging at the time, I learned that these songs were featured on his debut self-titled album released in 2003. To this day, Celldweller's self-titled album is the project that has probably had the biggest impact on me as a musician primarily. It was like the music featured there opened my eyes to viewing music in a totally different way, one that's not limited by the conventional definitions of genre. Celldweller has had a prolific career thus far. The man stays very busy. He has several side projects which feature explorations of different musical genres, different aliases, really, different names for him, ranging from his synthwave project called Scandroid, and there's also his industrial project, his first musical project called Circle of Dust, both really great projects on their own. He also went on to found his own record label in 2006 called Fixed. There he was able to elevate other artists that dabble in similar sounds and styles, and the label continues to rock on to this day. I know a few folks on the label, and I am glad to see that there's a place for music like this. Satellites is a total of 8 tracks, clocking in at about 43 minutes in length. As always, I'll be describing the music, giving my highlights, and speaking on lyrical content, of course, where applicable, track by track, naturally starting with the first, here entitled Enter Into the Void. As we enter into this album, we start off with an exciting opener, an explosive track that blends elements of metal and electronica. At the beginning, we are met with rumbling synth bass, which leads into a soft drum and bass drive. This groove transforms once that chunky electric guitar riff enters the mix, with nice distorted vocal shouts for extra flavor. The first verse hits us with more drum and bass energy, staccato shouted vocal delivery, acid synth counter melodies, and more of these violent, chugging riffs that sound awesome. The pre-chorus includes a sleek vocoder effect on the sung vocals as well. During the chorus, Celldweller provides clean singing with simple melodies which complement the instrumental. The guitar riff becomes softer and more melodic as well. The drums also continue to pump life into the music. I enjoy the vocoder that we can hear added to the vocals for that transition out of the chorus. It's a unique sound that is distinct to Celldweller, and it sounds awesome whenever I hear it in his music. The subsequent transition and verse rips and develops into a breakdown section with more screaming and chunky guitars. Another chorus follows, and eventually we enter a smooth bridge. It's got a soft start with its smooth synth melodies. The section then expands, complete with synth arpeggios, more screaming, and breaks in the instrumental to help with the pacing of the song. After this, we hear another aggressive verse and chorus before eventually closing out the tune. And thematically, the song forces the listener to reflect upon their own nature. As Celldweller sings on the chorus, "Who are you, malignant or benign? Would you sell out your brother to save your own life, or neglect your own safety to save him from his plight? Who will you be when your life starts to spin into the void?" Track 2 is entitled "Blind Lead the Blind." We begin with a gentle and malignant sounding synth arpeggio, and the mix explodes once that chunky synth riff, electric guitars, and drums join the mix for this explosive effect. And after hearing this metal infused instrumentation, the mix shifts into the verse. We're thrown into a drum and bass section, providing an awesome sonic contrast for the song. It's packed with thick synth basses and Celldweller's shouted staccato vocals, as well as some singing. This bleeds into the pre chorus, gradually bringing back the metal sound to the song. The chorus brings more synth elements to the soundscape, and Celldweller sings and shouts here as the instrumental brings back the electric guitars and steady metal drive. In the background, we can hear glittery synth arpeggios, which do create a good contrast from the aggressive timbres that are in the foreground. The following verse and pre chorus mirror the first, and the second chorus is nearly identical to the first one. After this, we get to appreciate the riff in full before entering a bridge. It's full of double pedal kicks, shouting, new vocal melodies, chunky guitars, and more synth melodies, of course. This section builds into a breakdown section where the main riff is then slowed down, and the instrumental continues to pound us with its high octane metal drive, though it does eventually calm down to segue into that final chorus. This section is stripped down as the instrumental has that big shift. We've got a lovely synth melody entering here with minimal percussion, which does highlight the main groove in a softer way. We eventually shift into the wider mix that we're already familiar with, and that metal sound, which eventually leads us into the end. Thematically, this song is straightforward as Celldweller sings directly to those who sell false hopes and lies to the masses throughout the world. The song is a timely commentary on the amount of misinformation and lies that are being spread all over the place, all over the world today. I like how he puts it when he sings during the second part of the bridge. As your own life is fading, feel the weight of the hate you're validating. Dignity is hard to find when the blind lead the blind. What follows is track 3, entitled A Matter of Time. This was one of the lead singles for the album, and it is quite the banger. It's a sleek hard hitter that blends elements of industrial metal, electronic, and there's even hints of complextro, if you are familiar with that subgenre of EDM. We begin with the sucker punch of that guitar riff and percussive performance as the song pounds your eardrums with the sonic foundation for the song. The opening verse throws us a curveball, bringing in some drum and bass infused percussion with subtle guitar accompaniment and synth arpeggios. The pre-chorus switches up the groove, bringing in vocal melodies and easing the listener through a fun change in the percussive groove here. This helps the chorus pop once we do get to it. It sounds like a fusion of synthwave and rock with its glittery synth arpeggios, punchy percussion, and less overbearing guitars. They kind of take a step back during that section. The second verse switches up the energy, though, hitting us with a hard halftime rhythm that's almost reminiscent of dubstep, though not fully all the way there, especially because of that distorted synth bass that we hear beneath that. Celldweller also brings a shouted delivery here. He's basically rapping during this section, and I've got to say it sounds decent. We soon switch back to that drum and bass drive for the pre-chorus, which builds into the following chorus. After that, the music grows more interesting as we enter a gnarly breakdown section for that bridge. The guitar riff comes back in, chugging and heavy with all the percussion going crazy all across the board. It's super high energy. And just when you think it's about to be over, we enter a synth breakdown section. This leads into a melodic second half of that bridge. Distorted synth basses and melodies accompanied by guitars and punchy four-on-the-floor rhythms and those drums bring a new sound to the song. This leads us into a final chorus before the music does eventually fade out. And thematically, this song feels like a farewell to an old friend that eventually turned into a foe, like the cutting of ties with someone that you used to trust, although somewhere along the way, that person betrayed you, and things have clearly changed since then. As we hear during the bridge, This is my last goodbye, my epitaph for you. False pretense of integrity, you believed your lies were true. And this could be the saddest tale I'll never tell. Evanescently will echo through the halls of hell. It was only just a matter of time. Track 4 is entitled My Disintegration. This was another lead single, and it's also a personal favorite of mine. There's so much energy that's packed into this one song, as it's a fusion of different styles all coming together beautifully. The distorted synths at the intro lead into the hard hitting chorus, a blend of guitar riffs and head banging percussive performance, just perfectly matching the energy. We get a staccato version of the riff with bouncy guitar performance and punchy percussive rhythms, with double pedal kicks and stuttering snares as well. For the verse, Celldweller sings through a vocoder to create a timbre that is beyond human, something that he does a lot in his music. He also sprinkles in some screaming there as well. The post-chorus section features chugging guitars, more of those headbanging drums, and a lovely synth melody that adds a strong counter melody for Celldweller's vocal melodies. After hearing the next verse, chorus, and pre-chorus again, the instrumental progresses into a great synth breakdown for the bridge. Awesome synth melodies float on the mix as the drums and guitars continue to chug along. The arpeggiated synth melodies are nothing short of incredible. I cannot get enough of that sound. The mix then takes a turn for a calmer direction as we move into the vocal bridge. It features slower drums with subtle synth accompaniment and clean layered singing from Celldweller. The guitar and synth accompaniment is smooth here, completely switching up that energy to kind of sound like a blend of synthwave and hard rock. The music steadily builds until we're eventually thrown into the main riff and post-chorus once more. And thematically, this song seems to revolve around many spiritual themes. Celldweller alludes to a force that is all-encompassing. As he sings during the bridge, "Your gravity is pulling me, leads me on to my new home. Endlessly circling, I near your flame. Blissfully unaware, the voice I hear that beckons me ensures that nothing will remain. Bathed in your heat, absorbed in your light, I regret I didn't know I was incapable of perceiving my own flight. Activate, captivate, annihilate, you're my disintegration." Track 5 is entitled Soul Parasites. This song gets off to a fast start, punching us with chunky synths and relentless drums. The verse features stuttering kicks, grimy distorted bass, and gnarly shouted vocals. There's sung vocals in the pre-chorus, layered in a unique way that, as I mentioned, is very distinct to Celldweller's style. And I love the percussion here. It's so organic and lively that it just makes me want to mosh. The chorus follows, hitting us with the main vocal melody, solid guitar riff, and steady metal drums. After another angry verse, melodic pre-chorus, and chorus, we're thrown into a sick breakdown section that changes the energy up. The shouted vocals are angrier here, featuring a gnarly distorted vocoder for extra aggression, and it's just so imposing. It's just massive. It sounds really cool. There's also the addition of a new synth melody that's played by a massive supersaw at this part, while the drums continue to pump us with those headbanging metal grooves, and the guitars, of course, keep chugging along. It leads into one last chorus, which then builds into the brief and punchy outro. And thematically, this song revolves around the metaphor of what Celldweller calls a soul parasite. As he sings, "I've given every piece of me to you. I've done so many things I can't undo. I live in subjugation. You're my disintegration. Parasite. The more I give to you, the more I need. They're looking through your eyes to watch me bleed. I live in isolation. My determination's lost the fight. Soul parasite." And a fun fact that I learned while researching the album, this instrumental was a project that Celldweller had originally started about 17 years ago. Gotta kind of let that sink in. 17 years ago. I'm 25. I'm glad he was able to polish and complete this track, ultimately writing those lyrics towards the end, eventually producing a hell of a banger. This is a great song. Track 6 is entitled Electric Eye. This track might be another personal favorite, and it's a drum and bass track at its core, with tons of metal infusions throughout the track. The main groove hits us at the intro with the chunky guitar riffs bleeding through. In the background, we can hear cosmic-sounding synth melodies, steady in their movement. Celldweller introduces a vocal melody in the verse, and throws the listener into the main drum and bass drive. I love the synth bass. It's exceptionally fat and grimy, just absolutely flavorful in its implementation here. The drums are richly layered, hitting us with high octane rhythms that keep your mind moving forward at light speed. And Celldweller provides sung vocals and some screaming as well. The chorus brings the main vocal melody back with a layered vocoder type of flavor to it. The mix grows brighter here with its soaring synth pads and melodies as well. The drums keep the drive going, though they do feel a bit more simplified. They take a step back just to allow so many other elements shine. And the guitars here are also subtle, mainly providing power chords in the background. The next drum and bass drive follows, with the synth bass playing new melodies here. They're chopped up in different ways. The drums come back in full force, carrying us into the following verse and chorus. Afterwards, that drum and bass drive returns once more, hitting us harder than before due to the shifts in the background of the music. The drums and bass have plenty of space to shine at this point, and the music does continue to grow calmer, eventually fading out as we are now in the outro of the song. And thematically, it's very straightforward and ominous, as Celldweller speaks of an entity that watches everything we do. It's sung from the first person. He's speaking as if he were that entity, reassuring the listener that it does have good intentions. For example, on the second verse, we hear, "I'll keep you safe, I'll keep you sound, when you're under my control. From far away, I scan the ground." Track 7 is entitled "Baptized in Fire." The industrial metal energy returns full force with elements of prog metal and thrash metal shining through in their own respective moments on the song. We begin with sinister gated synth melodies and an equally evil tasting guitar riff. The verse hits us with a fusion of metal and electronica. Celldweller hits us with screaming vocals and does switch to a sung delivery for the pre-chorus. I love the subtle progression in the music, which builds into eventually the chorus, which features steady rock grooves in the percussion, subdued guitar riffs, subtle synth melodies, and more singing with screams sprinkled in there like cilantro. The verse that follows throws the listener into a drum and bass drive with a metal flair to it, since the guitar riffs act as the glue for the mix. And Celldweller continues to scream over the instrumental, and all these elements sound great together. Then this does lead into the following chorus, and I like how this section feels extended, as new vocal melodies mirror the lead guitar and work well together. There's no lyrics here though, just vocalizations here, and they are quite catchy. After this, we have a gnarly guitar solo. It's a sick thrash metal section for the bridge. I love the guitar tones and the melodies that Celldweller lays down and performs, and the percussion keeps the listener pumped as we continue to chug along. This leads to a vocal bridge with more singing and synth melodies shining through. The drums also feature subtle shifts and rhythms, which do sound great and they work well. The chorus that follows is stripped down, at that point only featuring an electric guitar lick and Celldweller's clean singing on top of that. The music does eventually build back up to explode once more for that final chorus and pre-chorus before leading to an outro with sparkly synth melodies at the very end. Thematically, this song is straightforward, with the title offering the listener a frame of reference. Celldweller describes a rebirth through flames, a difficult yet significant transformation in the speaker's life. I like how he phrases it during the second verse. "In flames, in pain, the sacred and profane, separated in the belly of the fire, detached from every raw desire. Sometimes it feels like my life has been made for rebirth. Life beyond conceivability, the trivial has burned away." And lastly, track 8 is entitled "The End of the World." The closing track is a melodic tune that blends elements of synthwave and rock. We begin with a detuned piano melody, and bright synth pads can be heard in the background. The verse changes things up with minimal percussion and mellow plucked guitar melodies. The chorus raises the energy as the drums do become more lively. Celldweller sings in his distinct layered fashion as well, really making this song feel like his own type of style. The following verse hits us with stuttering hi-hats, sharp snares, and distinct kicks. They do change here. And the following chorus leads us into that lovely outro. Vocoded vocals return as the music slowly fades out. And thematically, this song is a timely commentary on Celldweller's current perspective of the world, reflecting on a state of paranoia and uncertainty He questions whether or not there are others out there that feel the same way as he does. He opens up by singing, "Try to remember if I've ever felt things were so dire. I can't believe we're all spitting in the face of fire. I can't be the only one so sick, so tired, and I'm not the kind of man to run from a trial, but it's hard to stand by and watch all the things they defile. As it burns to the ground, they smile. Is there anybody else out there?" Celldweller offers some resolution towards the very end when he sings, "Let's get away from these soul parasites. We'll go off world tonight." Overall, this was a solid album. Celldweller has explored various musical styles in the past, but this album does feel like a return to form for him, like a sleek repackaging of the sounds that I've come to associate with the Celldweller brand. In many ways, the experience is reminiscent of what I felt like when I first listened to his debut self-titled release way back when I was just a little lad just exploring music. The seamless blending of various dance and rock styles and grooves make for an exhilarating and captivating experience. I also love his lyrical callbacks to previous releases, as if he were leaving cool Easter eggs for the true Celldweller fans to pick up on. He name drops older song and album titles, as if building an overarching narrative and expanding on the lore that goes into the Celldweller brand. This album is for the music listener that embraces fusion and the blurring of barriers that have come to define each genre that has been showcased here. Celldweller has the ability to masterfully draw inspiration from so many different places, different artistic styles, and he brings them together in a way that is refined, respectful, and effective. I mean, at some points you're dancing, at other points you're moshing, at other points you're singing, you're headbanging. It's got everything. It's the complete package, and I love that the track list does not feel bloated. It's just 8 songs. Each song is a wild ride, and they all come together very cohesively. Um, I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible here, but Celldweller, as I mentioned, is like one of those really big artists for me. He was one of the first that I ever listened to that was able to bring so many different musical elements together in a way that is so cohesive, and it just makes sense. It just works very well. So if you're a music listener that really enjoys that type of energy, this is certainly the album for you. If you love that fusion of different styles and genres, this is definitely going to scratch that itch for you. And if you've sat here and you've listened to me talk about Celldweller for this whole time and his latest release, Satellites, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And if you are listening to new music, or you make new music, or you're just working on something that you really want to share with somebody, you can certainly send that my way. And if you need constructive criticism or feedback, I am more than happy to provide that to you. Honestly, I truly mean that. And with all that being said, I hope that you're having a very wonderful day. Make sure make sure to stay hydrated and take care. Peace.